Hi, welcome back to the studio. It's really nice to see you. Hope you're having a good week. I thought I'd just show you today some of the stuff that I've been working on over the last few weeks, and it's just been painting. It's provided me with a really good challenge, it's getting my brain going. Lots of people during this lockdown have taken up some kind of new skill, learn a language or start baking. I've decided I really want to get back to doing painting. It's something that I've always loved. I love drawing. That's the be all and end all for me. Is always, I've got a sketchbook on. Or even when I think back to when I was a small child and at primary school, the thing that I remember the most is the art lessons and just loving drawing. So, I've always done that. But painting is something that, recently I haven't given much attention to. And while it's one of those things that you never actually forget how to do it, certainly your skills, they do just fade away a little bit, and practice does make perfect. So I thought, well, if I want to do this, the only way that I'm going to get better at it is just to get started and to do it. So I've been just painting quite a little bit of still life, but quite a lot of portraits in the last few weeks, and it's been really interesting actually getting back into it, because you kind of feel a bit nervous at first and oh God, I've forgotten what to do, but quickly you kind of think, oh yeah, and get back into colour mixing and thinking about how you put the paint on. So I've been doing some still lifes, but I've mainly been doing some portraits, and I thought you might like to see what I've been doing, because basically I've been kind of repeating the same activity and just literally practicing. So I've started, let me show you the first one that I've done here. I've been painting Amelie. Obviously that's kind of straightforward, you just paint whoever's nearby. So obviously she's here a lot, but I've been working mainly from photos, because while she may be in the room, she didn't really sit still. So I've been working from photos, which I've printed out, trying to be at a similar scale to the painting that I want to do. I've found that I paint things most easily when they are life-size. I suppose that makes sense really, isn't it? We're used to seeing an object that is life-size, so when you paint it, it feels a bit weird to kind of paint it bigger or smaller. So I've printed my photos out at roughly the size that I want to paint them. And I'm painting onto a lot of MDF board, I'm painting onto prepared cardboard. I've painted some onto canvas. I think just experimenting with different surfaces has been really interesting to see what I like best. And I've been trying with different media as well. So this one is an acrylic painting. I suppose I should call it just a sketch really, because I haven't resolved it. I've painted this in like a couple of sessions, just really trying to get a feel for it. So there's one, and then the next one, I felt the proportions really weren't quite right. It's tricky when you're doing a face that you know really well. It's different, I've painted like the cherries on the wall behind me. Well, they're very forgiving because, a cherry is a cherry, whereas a face is something that's very specific. And if you get the proportions wrong, everybody's like, oh, well, it's a nice painting, doesn't look like her. Especially the subject herself when she comes in here and she says, oh, well, that doesn't look like me, Mummy. I think, oh, God, okay, I'm just practising. But, this second one, so just complete, like, repetition of the same subject matter and everything. I was just paid extra attention to try and get the proportions a little bit better. And I think this one does have more of a look of her mischievous quality about it. But I'm just experimenting here. Again, this is acrylic, and when I paint with acrylic I tend to put it down quite thinly. I don't really use paint thickly in an impasto way. I tend to paint in quite thin layers, and that works really well with acrylics because they dry so fast that you can put a layer of paint down, and I tend to just put fairly broad approximation of the colours and the tone down. And then with subsequent layers, you can basically make corrections and you kind of build up in that way. So that's how I'm used to painting with acrylic. But then I really fancied having a go with oils and seeing what I could do with oils. But obviously I don't want to use any kind of solvents in here because I just spend a lot of time in here and I don't want the whole place smelling like terps. Although, it does take you back, doesn't it? And you think of going back to art college and there's just that distinctive smell of terps and white spirit and oil paint, just so evocative. But I don't want the whole place smelling like that. So I thought, well, I'm going to try water mixable oils. So I did a lot of research on those. And basically it's quite interesting. The pigment is absolutely identical. And they're also still in an oily binder. But they make, in the manufacturing stage, they make this molecular change that somehow makes them be able to be emulsified in water. So it means that you can use oil as your medium, and you can use water. That's so clever, isn't it? So it really gives you the best of both worlds, because you can paint them with a very traditional way, but you can rinse your brushes out in water, and that is a no-brainer for me. I don't know why anybody is still using traditional oils and white spirit and terps anymore. You know, I don't know why you would do that. These water mixable oils I'm finding working really nicely. So again, revisited the same subject matter using the oil paint, and I thought that that was the most sensible thing to do, really, because I kind of got to know the subject matter with the acrylic painting that I was familiar with. So I thought, well, if I tackle the very same thing with oil, then I don't have to focus so much on the drawing and the composition, because I've kind of got a handle on that. I can just consider how the paint's behaving and what's different about the paint. You know, how thick is it, how thin is it, how do they mix, getting used to a new palette of colours and that sort of thing. So here's the oil painted version, which looks a little bit shiny in places. It's still very wet. I've been working on this with its final layers this week, and it was interesting because I'm used to using acrylics, which, you know, the problem with acrylics is they dry too quick quite often, and I tend to mix in a glaze medium to slow it down. Whereas with oils, I'm working with them and they're taking too long to dry. So that was just a little bit of a learning curve there about the kind of physical application of the paint and how you have to just change your working practice slightly. So I have begun on subsequent paintings. I've started bringing in a little bit of using a drying medium just to speed up those first paint layers. And then what I found when I was doing some painting, I've got this one on the easel here, and I painted that not using any medium at all, just using water. But I found what I was missing with that one was the kind of beauty of the glazing, which is what I really love when I paint with acrylics. So on this one, I've gone back to it, and my final layers that I've put on, I've used some of this painting medium, which makes the oil paint more transparent but maintains its fatness. So you know this whole principle of fat paint over lean paint. So you can paint thinly and transparently with the paint, but hopefully you don't get problems with, you know, your layers not working nicely together. So I'm hoping that that's going to really give me my best of both worlds, because the oil paint really allows you to move it and blend it in a different way than you can with the acrylic. So definitely pros and cons with both, but I am really enjoying exploring the water mixable oils. I think they're great fun. So I've done this little set of amelis. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with multiples of them, but you know, it was a really good learning activity. And then I've done this double portrait. I haven't done many double portraits before, so that was a fun challenge. You know, it's quite difficult. You get chasing the likeness of one around the canvas, and you just about get that somewhere close, then you've got to try and get the other one, and you know, it's a challenge to get two faces right at the same time. And then this little one that I've been working on over this past week as well. This is very shiny because I've used a lot of the painting medium in the final layers, again building up the glazes. This was it's on board. It was an acrylic painting, and I'd used an acrylic skin there where the lettering is. So I kind of built up these acrylic layers, and then there was this area that obviously was calling out for something, and I had this in my stash for ages thinking, oh, one day I'll paint something interesting in that little square. So I thought, well, time's come, let's just have a go. So I've taken, it's the same face that I worked from here, and I've just isolated it there with some L's just to crop out all the extra stuff and get it down to the size that I need it to be in this little square here. I can't tell you how difficult it is to paint small. I'm obviously not cut out for it. You need really small brushes, and any mark that you put down, it's just like, it's the biggest deal. You know, on a bigger painting, you can kind of get away with something not being quite right. I don't know why it would be, but you can. On the smaller one, you've got to be so economical with your marks that you can't make a mistake. So this one isn't perfect, but I have decided that painting tiny isn't really for me. So I'm not going to labour over this one. It was a nice little exercise to try. I have got another one. I've got various of these panels prepped. Here it is. So this is with just its acrylic painting stage. So this has got some more acrylic skins here, these lower sections where the text is. and it's a monoprint on paper actually underneath the very bottom of it. So I've stuck these to MDF and kind of built up the layers. And again, I've got this area where obviously something needs to happen, but I don't think I really fancy doing another tiny face. So I'm going to see what else comes to me. I'm not sure yet. I had thought I might start that today, but I need to think about it a little bit more. I love the idea of the tiny faces peeping through, but I did struggle a little bit with this one. But you know, maybe I just need to try a bit harder and practice. I don't know. But yeah, I put a lot of medium in the final layers of this to try and build up some transparency and really get the colours to glow in the background. So this is very wet still. Be interesting to see how it dries. I'm quite liking the sheen that it's got. So I think probably what I'll do is I will varnish these just to try and maintain some of that nice kind of luster and depth of colour as well. I think when they dry and they go matte, you know, you lose some of that. I'm enjoying the way it is. So I might look into putting some kind of satin varnish on these. I think it'd be quite nice. Yeah, so that's mainly what I've been, I would say mainly what I've been working. That is only what I've been working on. I've become quite obsessive about it. I'm finding, when, you know, when you get something and it really challenges your brain and you love it, time just is irrelevant anymore, isn't it? I can come in here and I can paint for 2 or 3 hours and it feels like I've only been in here for half an hour. It's just incredible. You look at the clock and you think, wow, where did all the time go? So yeah, I have got a lot of jobs that I ought to be doing, but really I'm just only want to paint lately. So there you go. I hope you've enjoyed seeing what I've been doing lately, and catch up with you soon. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye for now.